Welcome. This is an overview of PSDS. So we're just going to go through a kind of a high-level overview to begin with. Public Sector Digital Services, or PSDS, is the topic we're covering today. And as an overview of our agenda, so first thing we're going to do is get some definitions, what PSDS is, how it works in the service platform. Next, we'll go over the benefits. So why might a customer choose PSDS over another solution, and kind of a common use case based off of what I've seen doing PSDS implementations in the past. Third will be kind of the technical overview of PSDS, so some best practices, a high-level roadmap for setup and configuration, and some service examples. The service examples we're going to cover are actually installed with PSDS, which is really cool, and we'll cover that a little bit in the demo. So we're going to be creating a service request live on the government service portal and using the service request playbook. All right, awesome. So overview and definitions. So PSDS is really a full government services solution. It supports constituents, which are the citizens, residents, tourists, military, anywhere within a locale. It could be state, it could be federal, it can be a city. So kind of different sectors that we see with PSDS. It does extend customer service management, CSM, which is really great because you're giving these modern consumer grade experiences that CSM allows to constituents who are often used to seeing, government software. Kind of the core components that we're using to accomplish that is the government data model. So that is a constituent, like I said, kind of as a high level overview, that's any citizen, a resident, tourists. So it's not necessarily only citizens, but anyone that might be requesting public services. The government service case table, and then CSM configurable workspace for PSDS, and public service playbooks, as well as the government portal or constituent portal. So we'll begin just the government data model as a couple of highlights for things that are unique to PSDS. So constituent repurposes the consumer table. It's an extension of the consumer table, and it also has a tie-in called constituent profile, which is unique to PSDS. It contains a couple of PII items that normally only government organizations should have. So things like military status, marital status, driver's license, voter registration, all of that, SSN, that could all be held within constituent profile. Agency or service organization is also unique to PSDS. Again, this can be internal or external agencies. So you might have a State Department of Child Services or Child Support. That could be an agency, as well as the licenses and permits table, which are extended from the product model. So the base government service case is what we're looking at here in the screenshot. It is an extension of the base CSM case table, but it's really recommended that as you're building out services for the public sector, this is what you're extending. Some of the pre-built services that we're going to cover are service request. So this can be any kind of public service request, such as a pothole repair or street cleaning. And then there's permit or license application. So not necessarily a completed service, but this could be something like a construction permit or a driver's license, as well as information requests. So let's see a lot of like court recordings, depositions, that kind of thing through information request. The constituent portal, this screenshot I'm showing you here is the just pure out-of-box unbranded government portal, but it is installed with PSDS, so you get a fresh portal. The suffix is /GSP for government services portal. It does use a lot of out-of-box widgets that you would normally have with any other CSM portal. So if you've got the consumer services portal and you're used to seeing service catalog and case, that would all be there as well. Of course, anytime you're using portal, you have a chance to integrate with other tools. So virtual agent notifications or service catalog and more. So really, extent of portal can be kind of endless, but as a starting point, government services gets you started. What we're looking at here are a couple of screenshots. These are what the actual service requests look like. One thing I have seen customers do is integrate maps, either Google Maps or ArcGIS, which is very, very helpful when you are reporting something like road issues. So if you've got a pothole repair, you might have multiple requests for the same location. So map integrations definitely come into play, very helpful. And then government agent workspace. So it is just a reuse of CSM configurable workspace. There are a couple of quick tie-ins. So if we look at the screenshot here, we see constituent information and households. So not super dissimilar to CSM. There's just an extension of some of that government data model into the CSM configurable workspace. And then finally, and kind of one of the, in my opinion, the best things that PSDS does really well are the service playbooks. So what we're looking at here is the service request. We'll also be doing a live demo later. We'll see the full walkthrough. Has been upgraded in Washington, D.C. and is really kind of a even more play-by-play, step-by-step visual representation of the lifeline of a case, which is great. And then there's 3 installed with PSDS. There's 3 out-of-box playbooks, pretty comprehensive, each of them with multiple steps. There's license and permit and information request and service request. All right, so why PSDS? Why not just use CSM or any other solution on the ServiceNow platform? So it's really that government data model comes into play quite well. There's a lot of pre-built solutions that can be easily adapted quickly to meet most needs. I'll show you guys some of the services that are installed, but a lot of the use cases that a government customer might have could already be met, at least in part, by some of those pre-built services, obviously. And then, of course, there's all the benefits of being on the ServiceNow platform with low code, no code, with workflows, with instance uptime being great. So those are some of the benefits. All right, and then we'll just kind of go through a theoretical case study. So we've got a state level Department of Transportation. They are currently either using paper forms, or if they're somewhat of a digital journey, they might have a limited 311 website. But very common pain points that we see, they might have manual processes, work duplication, manual communication, no automated responses. So in this case, we would be able to set up the government service portal. That's kind of the front end solution, obviously, to constituents. So we can have requests just completely migrated completely with self-service options, such as a knowledge base. And then there's not manual communications happening. We've got, if you look up here, the notifications badge, they get quick status updates through the notifications tab of the portal, as well as the traditional emailed out notification. So we can also create service definitions. It's very, very straightforward. And for something that is a defined service, such as a parks cleanup or a street issue, something that is submitted in mass, these are great. We can very, very quickly deploy a service definition and a record producer that lets that just be dropped directly into a workflow, and agents can begin working on those. And additionally, CSM configurable workspace, very, very powerful tool. It lets agents have multiple cases open and really multitask, work quickly, work effectively, jump from case to case. You can have them working in a live queue with virtual agent. So really amplifies the amount of work and productivity that a government agent can do as well. All right, so in terms of actually using PSDS, setting it up, and best practices. So first, use those government data models, the public sector data models. So that's the constituent field, table, and everything that includes. And then more and more case types are getting pushed. So government case type is a great starting point, but even beyond that, extend that government case type to the individual workflows that you're implementing. You can use the government service portal. That's going to be a great one-stop shop for them to accomplish everything that they're trying to do. And additionally, gives for fast fast status updates, whether that's an actual notification or just seeing the status of their cases. So tracking their own information, and the agent experience. So that's CSM configurable workspace. So giving the tools to those government agents, Department of Transportation agents, whoever it is that's working, just to complete their work more quickly and have a step-by-step guided process through those playbooks. So as a high-level overview, the way that you might approach this is as a kind of initial setup, you would have your service definitions. So you would do some requirements collecting, some data collecting here. You would get the definition of the services, what case types they go to. So as a more specific example with this, maybe you would do a case type for each agency. So if you've got the Department of Transportation, they may have a case type. If you've got Department of Children's Services, they may have a case type. And then that allows you to create the service definitions to reference those individual case types later on. At this point, you can also set up assignment group, ID, jurisdiction. For some services like voting as a pertinent example, that's obviously not something that happens every year. It's not an ongoing service. So you can also set up a start and end date. So from there, you've got your collection of services, set up your pool of services. And from there, you could look at agent workspace. So with the beauty of those government case types is if you need to make any modifications to a workflow or playbook on those extended government case tables, you're able to do that. And then just show what's actually relevant to your agency workers who are fulfilling those requests. And then kind of in tandem along with Agent Workspace is also setting up that constituent portals. So record producers or catalog items, very, very fast to set up. It's very helpful to tie in at least a couple of other self-service options. So be that virtual agent with some topics set up or a knowledge base. Most government agencies obviously aren't doing 24/7 support. So giving a way that you can have 24/7 support through self-service options is really beneficial. All right, and then we'll go through, this next section is actually showing you what's pre-built in terms of services. So if you wanted to get a starting point, this gives you a really good idea of how PSDS is actually being used. Again, these are just starting services. So if there's something that seems like there's a parallel to what you could build, it's very, very easy to clone any of these and modify them for your particular use case. But so public services are, there's quite a few. These are all pre-built and included. So you can see that there's quite a few installed. We've got categories. So animal, traffic and parking, public safety, streets and sidewalks, parks maintenance, all of these things. And then within them, each of these have multiple record producers and service definitions already configured. So great starting point. And then with these, you are able, again, this is all pre-built, but you've got the record producers. These are creating cases on the service request case type and using the service request playbook. Also, we've got the information request services. So as I mentioned, this might be something like court-ordered information, depositions, any kind of retrieval of public records. So there is an information request playbook as well. It's also very comprehensive. So you would utilize, similarly, you have pre-built catalog items, record producers that create these information request records. And then your agents are able to walk through them step by step using this information request playbook. Some more examples are accident reports, body and dash cam footage, vaccine agreements, any of these on these lists. These are all pre-built and installed with PSDS. All right, and then finally, the last one is license and permit services. So this example that we're looking at in the screenshot here is for a commercial fishing license. So wide variety in how these can be used. That's one thing that you'll see in PSDS is it makes you realize how many government services happen, without our knowledge, how much infrastructure goes into running the public sector. So there's all of these weird little niche use case things that we don't think about, like, renewing your commercial fishing license. But again, this is a pre-built license playbook. We'll be doing a live demo, but if you are able to see, steps are enter request details, upload documents, review fees and disclaimers. So quite granular steps, which is excellent for repeat processes like a license or license application or permit application, where you're collecting a lot of very specific information and making an approval based off of that information collected. And then these are all of the license and permit services that are installed with PSDS. So quite a few again here: restaurant licenses, nursing licenses, construction permits, real estate, fishing, driver's licenses. So quite a few. All right, so we are looking at the government services portal as a constituent. This user, Derek Bird, is a constituent. So if we go into the service catalog, we'll click here, browse services. Right off the bat, this is loaded with popular items. With this being a dev instance, there's not going to be a lot here, but this is sorted by the most submitted requests, which can be quite helpful. If I expand the categories, we're going to see all of those pre-built service catalog categories. So animal or parks and trees maintenance, public safety, streets and sidewalks. So I will go ahead and select one of these. We will do water on street. So again, I know I've mentioned briefly the map integration. This is a lot of customers might do a map tie-in actually on the catalog item itself, just allowing a person to select a point on a map or reference open cases, which prevents, you know, the same issue. Maybe it's flooding in this example from being reported multiple times and multiple workers dispatched for the same issue. So we'll go ahead and select address. And then from here, just short description and details. We also have the ability to add attachments. So if they want to add a photo, you can also make attachments required. So if you wanted to do an attachment of, let's say, damage in a park or damage to a street, you could specify that they need to upload a photo of that damage. Perfect. And then additionally, very easy to add extra fields or modify any of these. So obviously, if you're a state level government, you probably don't need country. That's probably a given. Also, if you do tie in a map integration and you're selecting it, this is of course all pre-filled based off of the location selected on a map. But if your particular government organization collects a specific information, that can also be added to these catalog items very easily. So we'll go ahead and submit this. And then from here, we are taken to just the standard ticket form. So we can see our state that it's currently in. We can see that it says stage, it's intake. This works very similarly. So as we get moved to throughout the playbook, this stage is going to update, just like we see that like state is draft, that will get moved to open. So both of these stage fields will update as an agent works on this case. And then we can see the comments replied to by the agent as well as any attachments uploaded here. So I will switch over to the agent view. Go ahead and refresh our list. So we see our new case here. We'll open this service request. If you are familiar at all with the history of playbooks, you might remember that at one point they were all tabbed and kind of step by step down here. Now we actually have this horizontal indicator that goes across the entire case, and it's really a full page experience, the playbook is, instead of being a single tab within a case record, which is really cool. It kind of keeps them within that playbook view. So we're looking at our service request here. This gives us a chance to just review the information if I open this. So I will just go ahead and submit this. Everything looks good. And then from here, we have the option to assign this to ourselves to begin work on. So I will go ahead and click assign to me. This is going to move it out of the intake stage and into the review stage. Sorry, move to review does that. We'll pop open our portal experience again. So we can see that the state is now updated to open, stages review. Right, and then this is really where we get into the nitty-gritty of actually the step-by-steps of these playbooks. So the first thing that we are set up to do as an agent in this experience is to check for duplicates. So in this scenario, I reported flooding and also the street. So a couple of things that the playbook is going to look for is requests that have the same keywords or address. So in this case, this was also a flooding request, but we can see that the address is different. So let's say it is the same flooding incident. We can make this original that was submitted earlier the primary case, or if they are separate and it's two distinct issues that would need to be resolved separately, we can also not associate them and just move forward with processing them independently. So in that scenario, this is what I'm going to do. We'll say that these are two individual distinct issues that need to be resolved separately. So I'm going to put in my work notes, address is unique. And then from here, let's say that this is a very simple service request and could be deployed very quickly. We can actually move it directly to the decision, which is kind of the end of the flow, and close the case from there. But in this scenario, we're going to go through the full flow. So the next step would instead be to request an inspection. So I've added my work notes and I will request inspection. So again, confirmation, verify that there's no similar requests already in progress to prevent duplicate work. Go ahead and confirm that, request inspection. Okay, perfect. So we're now looking at our first services request task. So it's created a new task. We're now looking at a case task and it's in state open. So this is review, investigate the issue. So in this scenario, we're not dispatching any kind of staff worker out to go look at it. We're just reviewing to investigate. This is the initial early review phase before any work has started. So description, provide details about the work performed. If we create a work order, we can link it here. So we'll just do, we review the photos. There is indeed flooding. Okay. And then we can close this task by hitting record findings. So briefly, we saw that was updated to close. That task is now complete. So our next case task that we moved on to is the details of what this will actually need. So if we know that we will need to dispatch a city employee, we can provide that here, or really just whatever the conclusion of that investigation is. And again, the beauty of these playbooks is that these are an exhaustive starting point. So for some service requests, maybe it doesn't make sense to have as many steps as we have here, but we are able to copy those service request playbooks and make them work for whatever service in particular we're dealing with. So there's flooding, city employee will need to be dispatched, and then we can mark this complete. This is going to move that case task to close. And then from here, we are now done with our review stage. So I will click move to process. And then again, just ensure that all open case tasks have already been closed, which we did. So we'll go to move to process. Then popping into our portal persona, our constituent, viewing it here, again, we can see that the state is updated and the stage as well. And then this is the assess resources step. So we can see that this gives us a chance to evaluate the resources and cost. So if you are scoping or estimating the work ahead of time, this would be the place that you could store that information. So we will say we could estimate would be 2 city employees at 1 hour each. If I have defined a certain threshold that a repair or a dispatch can be sent out for without an approval, I can just move to start work. Otherwise, I can also request approval. So it seems like a complicated service to fulfill. That gives you the option to move it to approval first. So approval requests are created. I will go ahead and approve those over here. Okay, and then from here we can start work. All right, and then we now have an additional case task open. So this is the task to actually fulfill the work, complete the service as it's defined. So performed work report. This would be done after it's completed. So, and then something like this, where we're actually performing a work report, we could attach to this case task very easily, beyond just, a static text description. So we'll go ahead and mark this complete. So we are done with all of the review and process steps. These are kind of the working of the service request itself. The next one that we're now going to move to is the decision, which is closing the service case. Before we do that, there's a couple of things that I want to point out, which are very, very helpful in this playbook view. The first is that we now have presence in the workspace view. If you're familiar with presence on the platform UI, you know that this indicates that somebody else is looking at the record. We now see that with the constituent as we're live working. So if an agent is online and they see that the constituent that they're helping is also online, that's valuable information to have. We also have some other related tabs here. So we've got the activity stream. If you've worked any version of Workspace, this will look very familiar. We've got comments and which customer notes, and then work notes, private work notes. We can see our attachments here, our email templates, and then our response templates. So all those just very standard Workspace features, but not removed from this playbook view. We still have access to them. So from here, we will go ahead and move to decision. So again, just a final check, make sure any open case tasks are complete before proceeding. So we'll go ahead and move to decision. We get a confirmation that the case has been moved to the decision stage. And at this point, we're really just resolving. So we're proposing a solution and giving it a resolution code. So we can do just a brief summary. Again, we'll check this box, add resolution notes to comments, so that on our portal persona that we can see this. And then we'll go ahead and propose solution. All right, and then one thing you might notice is this re-propose solution. So if we want to change this at any point, we have the ability to do that. We don't necessarily need the constituent to reject the solution. You're able to do that as well. I will go ahead and reopen the service request. So we can see that that notification badge indicating that we did get a notification has updated. So I'll click that and we can see the service request and the short description, as well as our comments here on the ticket tab. So from this portal view, we can accept or reject the solution. If we reject it, it's going to move it back to open. If we accept it, it's going to move it to closed and trigger a constituent satisfaction survey after this. So that's what I'll go ahead and do. We'll accept the solution. And then we're routed to that constituent survey. So it references the service request number and short description again. And then go ahead and click get started. And then this survey can be as simple or complex. You can make it, just a one-word level of satisfaction, 1 through 5, or you can do, comments. Many ways that you can set up the survey, but we'll go ahead and complete this. And submit that. And then we can see at any point, we can go in and see, historical data as the constituent for all of the cases that we have submitted, and the resolutions that they had. So they retain this information to reference later on. For something like information requests, that can be particularly helpful. Let's say that you're actually retrieving a document for them through, a deposition request. They have access in the future to go re-pull that if they need to. You can set up archiving if you want these to not be accessible after 6 months or a year, any defined time length, but very helpful that they can go back in and re-access this data. Then again, very, very common CSM case flow, but now that the solution has been accepted on the agent workspace side, as the fulfiller of this request, we can see that it's been solution accepted and the case is now closed. If I go back to my list and refresh, you can see state updated to close. So this service is complete. All right, well, with that, thank you so much all for joining. Hope that you enjoy your weekend, and let me know if you do have any government customers that you want to chat about or have any specific questions about PSDS. I'd be happy to answer, or bounce some ideas off of a wall. So let me know. But otherwise, thank you.